welcome to today's podcast. Here I have with me is Atlas, RBW, the leader of the esports clan Raised by Wolves. Thank you, Atlas, for coming here with me today.
Yeah, of course. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now we're just gonna talk about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So my I guess my alias is Atlas RBW. My name's Jimmy. I am a 22-year-old recent college student. I went to school for engineering. I graduated with a minor in business as well. And over the span of the early stages of COVID, of course, just like any any majority of people our age, I was really into video games, and I saw a huge opportunity in the competitive industry for gaming, which is honestly a very saturated field. But I will touch a little bit more on that later to explain how unsaturated it can become in the future. But I mean, you were there when it all started. It all started off as, just a group of friends playing together. And then once we continued to pursue that professional route with the esports environment, we quickly realized that Raised by Wolves had true potential, right? So once we began to realize that, I chose to pursue a business license for our organization, make it professional. And alongside that, we've since then recruited about 80 people total. We have graphic designers, content creators, competitive players, managers for social media, inside, outside, you name it. Essentially what Raised by Wolves Gaming is it's an organization that brings in semi-pro and professional gamers and just buffs them up in all aspects, right? So we're looking at social media, we're looking at actual gameplay, we're looking at every aspect in that way, and we are just trying to make these players grow, which is a mutually benefiting relationship, right? The more that they grow, the more we grow, and the more that we grow, the more that they grow.
What's it like to be the owner of this organization? Can you tell me about it?
It's honestly, I mean, the first word that comes to mind is just honestly a blessing. Being able to be surrounded by people that I truly consider my friends, which is funny because we've never met in person, but I'm closer to, majority of the people within RBW, closer to them than some people that I know in real life. But it really is truly a blessing. I mean, at 22 years old, it's been such a great growing experience for myself. It's put me in very uncomfortable situations where I had to step out of my comfort zone to make a big decision, right? Or to deal with something, mitigate a problem, initiate some sort of, proposition or proposal or just overall procedure. So it's kind of put me in the situation where I had to grow very quick. And on top of that, as we average about an age of 25 to 26 years old. So, there are some times where I'm dealing with some people that are 34 years old, and I'm having to have very professional conversations with them about where the trajectory of RBW is going and all that good stuff. And I mean, it's just been a huge learning experience. And like I mentioned twice now, it's been a huge blessing.
Of course. And many people, they try to start their own little organization, right? Their own little clan, but, most of them fail. So why do you think so many startup clans fail later on? Because, they want to become something bigger, but eventually, it just breaks apart.
I say that the biggest thing, I think, honestly, to be quite frank with you, I believe that most organizations fail due to lack of culture. So when I approached RBW, instead of looking at it as a gaming hobby or whatever, I looked at it as a company, right? So since day one, my biggest thing was culture. We always said that we wanted to recruit good people that are good players, right? So the people come first. So we wanted to make sure that the values and morals and attitudes and drive, all those things, that they are synergized, right? We want to make sure that all our players are working together for the same goal, that we're striving for excellence, we're striving for success while being very good and positive examples of what a professional gamer should be like. So I would definitely say that what separates success from failure in terms of that falls down to a few categories. Of course, culture being, in my opinion, the biggest one. Drive is huge. And honestly, just overall work ethic, right? I mean, if you're going to be outworked, then you're going to be in the shadows of other people that are growing. So, one of the biggest things that I just try to be very consistent with is my work ethic. I want to make sure that every day I'm doing the most that I can, and if I'm done doing what I was supposed to do, I look for what's next. So that overall hunger of wanting to pursue more has really driven us to a very top level in the gaming industry.
Of course. And when you first started, it wasn't all like, you know, roses and flowers and stuff like that. Of course, there are some hardships that come with it. Can you describe some of the hardships and how you overcame them as you built this organization?
Definitely. I mean, it's kind of like the saying, you live and you learn. Um, there were a lot of times where, maybe we thought someone was the right fit, and unfortunately they turned out not being the best fit. Or there were a lot of times where, things would happen with other organizations, right? Drama would come about, which is funny because, I feel like you wouldn't really expect that in the gaming world, but it is very alive and present. There were a lot of hardships that we had to overcome. And I think that the whole idea of it, and if it wasn't for our culture, I don't think that we would have persevered through those hardships.
Right.
I think the fact that we all really collided together as a family and we were able to stick through thick and thin, it just made us stronger in the end, right? It was like we would go through things where, like I'll give you an example that I'm sure you remember, right? We'd have a player that, on stream would say something that, doesn't go with our values or whatever, and it would set us back. It really would. It's kind of like one of those things where it's
Right.
like you're taking one step forward and two steps back. But the number one thing is that we always learn from it. One thing that I read in an article about this stuff, it was actually this CEO. She's amazing, right? She started multiple companies and she's been very successful with some of her companies. And then she talked about how there was this one time she tried starting a tech company and it just crashed and burned. And the I guess the person interviewing her asked her, they were like, do you consider that a loss? And she said, if the lesson learned is greater than, then it's never a loss. And I truly live by that. I believe that if we make mistakes, we get up, we learn from them, and we move forward stronger, better, faster, you name it. So that was the biggest thing, is every time we experienced a hardship, we look to grow past that and grow stronger from it, right? We try to learn our lesson.
Awesome. And so now, for the people who want to start something, like an organization, like what advice would you give them as like a kind of like motivation or something like that?
So assuming we're talking about, let's just say any organization, right? I really think it depends on the individual, right? You've just got different sorts of personalities. So that's a tough question to answer. But if I were to try to make it as universal as I possibly could, I think I would fall back on a quote that or I guess a little sentence that I live by, right? It's proud but never satisfied. I think it's the constant act of just continuing to grow and wanting to learn and just being a sponge, right? You want to be a sponge in life. You want to be flexible. You want to learn as much as you can. You want to overcome hardships. You want to be able to mold yourself into different roles and positions that play a huge part in what the end goal is, right? So I guess the advice that I would leave people with is that, it's like if you've got a dream and you want it bad enough, you can make it happen. And I got chills saying that, but I truly mean that. I truly believe that a large reason why some things fail is just because people choose to stop pursuing it, right? It's like you get knocked down 7 times, you get up 8 times, it's one of those things. So I truly believe that it's just that constant persistence. that people really need to implement into what they want to bring to life, the organization, the vision that they have. If you want it bad enough, you're going to fight for it. And I would say that that's probably one of the biggest things.
Right. It's, you just have to have that mindset, to not give up, of course. And,
100%.
right. If it goes with anything too, if you want to like follow your dreams or your goals, you set that goal, and of course it's not going to just give it to you like that. There's going to be tons of hardships and difficulties and obstacles, and sometimes you can't cross them, and that's when it's like, oh, do I just give up? I haven't even started. Like, no, you have to keep going. And even if you get over that, even if you say, you know what, I'm gonna keep going, there's still gonna be more obstacles, right? And like, it's gonna keep testing your mental state, your mindset. And I think that what makes people successful, right, is that they believe that they're gonna make it someday, and so they never give up. And then eventually, through all the obstacles that they've been through, they reach that goal, that dream, that paradise.
Yeah, I would say that like one thing you mentioned that it just really rung a bell is it's just the fact that it's like you're gonna make mistakes, right? Everyone's gonna make mistakes. No one's perfect. There's times where I make mistakes as a leader, but I try my best to learn from it and not do it again, right? It's like no one's gonna do everything perfectly, and honestly, nothing worth doing is easy, right? Like if you really want to achieve a different level of success, you really want to reach your goals and dreams and things like that, it's not going to be easy. You know what I mean? Obstacles are going to come. Things in life are going to happen. I mean, that's just how life is. And I've honestly realized that things come in waves, right? It's like you might have something amazing happen, and the next thing something bad happens, right? And then you get hit with something bad again, but it's like, are you going to throw in the towel, or are you going to keep pushing forward? You know what I mean?
Right.
Are you going to give up on what you started? I mean, one thing that I try to keep in mind is remember why you started. Because I think that a lot of times, and this ties into a question that you asked earlier, it was about, why do I think organizations fail? I think organizations fail because they forget what they were chasing. They forget what the pursuit was. They forget what their vision was. I think that they get too caught up on what's happening, the hardships and the challenges and the obstacles. I think they get too caught up and sad, and they beat themselves up over that, and they give up and they forget why they started. So if you always remember why you started and you look at how far you've come, it's optimism and pessimism, right? Are you going to look at the cup half full, or is the cup half empty? Are you going to take the loss and not learn from it, or are you going to take the loss and learn from it and make it a win the next time you go about it?
Right. I agree. Now, I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you think, like, what do you credit your success to?
Oh, I mean, first thing that comes to mind is the people that I work with, right? Like, you played a vital role in the beginning of this organization. Gage played a vital role in the beginning of this organization. Akios, or as we used to know him, Rico, he played a vital role. You know what I mean? It's the people. I credit my success based off the people that I've been working with, my friends, people that I call my family, right? It's funny that you mentioned that, because I just got off with Gage, one of our co-owners, and I told him, I said, man, I'm like, RBW would have never been what it is today if it wasn't for you. And then I told him, I said, I could say the same thing to everyone else here. Everyone's played their part. And at the end of the day, I'm not a one-man show. I'm not a one-man army. I'm not doing everything by myself. Do I have my hands in a lot of things? Do I do a lot? I mean, yeah, I definitely do. But at the end of the day, without the people, without the wolves, I'm nothing, right? So I would 100% credit the people that I surround myself with, that I call my friends and family.
Awesome. Very humble words. Okay, so now we're just gonna talk about a little bit about yourself and an advice that you would give to the audience here. So what is the best piece of advice that you have ever gotten personally?
Oh, that's a big question. I've mentioned a lot of things that I I look at, I think of, of course, throughout this whole conversation, I've mentioned a lot of things such as, remembering why you started,
Right.
not giving up, all these things. And I mean, those are all huge. I mean, honestly, if I were to say one thing, like one thing that really sticks with me, and maybe this isn't a direct answer to your question. I think it is, but you tell me, and if it's not, I can try to go deeper into it. But um, I believe that it all comes down to what I believe my purpose is, right? When I look at myself, when I look at my why, when I look at my purpose, when I look at what makes me happy, it all comes down to a term called servant leadership, right? Like I truly believe that I was created to serve others. And I've noticed that when I see other people succeed, that it makes me very happy, right? So it's like when we bring in players and we want to make their social medias better, their content better, their gameplay better, their personalities better, their gaming persona better, everything. I've realized that, of course, it makes the organization better, but it allows me to be happier, which allows me to be a better person, right? I find myself being a lot more optimistic. I'm sure everyone feels the same, but I find myself being a lot more optimistic and just overall positive whenever I am happy, right? So when I'm working with people that I love and I see them growing and I see them striving for success, like it motivates me so much, so much. You know what I mean? So I think to answer your question, I would say the one thing that really sticks with me that I learned from my mentor, um, is 100% servant leadership. It's the idea of leading by serving others, right? So it's saying, it's kind of like that. I guess the overall idea of like you treat the janitor the same way you would treat the CEO,
Right.
right? So it's like it's kind of like analyzing a situation. Like when I go into a problem or an opportunity, I'm saying, hey, what can I do to make this situation better? What, you know what I mean? It's like, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. Like to me, it's like I'm trying my best to put myself in a position where I can help whoever needs that help, whoever wants that help, right? So I would definitely say that my answer to your question would be servant leadership.
Awesome. That is great to hear. Yeah. Um, so another similar question would be, if we were to go back in time, right? Let's say to your high school self. You just entered high school. This is your freshman year of high school, and you saw yourself. What advice would you give yourself to lessen the mistakes that you've made in high school?
So here's the thing. I mean, I'm going to answer your question in two ways, right? The first way I'm going to answer it is by giving you what I would tell myself. And the second answer I'm going to give you is what I believe. What I would tell myself is to, of course, the concept of servant leadership. Like I wish I would have definitely, I think I've always naturally and just subconsciously implemented that into my life, but I would really try to emphasize the idea of it. I think that I would tell my past self, to be more confident, to realize that you don't have to be in a position of leadership to lead, to realize that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still be a leader. You know what I mean? So I think that it's the whole concept of empathy and understanding and charisma, right? And all these good things. It's like you want to serve others by understanding where they come from and seeing how you can change, to make them better, whatever the situation is. And then here's my second answer, right? I'm a very firm believer, in the idea that I believe everything happens for a reason. I think that I went through my experiences in high school, both good and bad, for a reason. And I think that they all are a combination of experiences that led me to be the man that I am today. So, would I personally change anything that I've been through in the past? Honestly, I would not. I really wouldn't. Whether it was a win or a loss, I think that I did my best to learn from it. And I'm sure you can relate to this, but there's a lot of times where it's like we went through something very embarrassing, right? And then it's like that thing is about to happen. You're like, wait, I've been here before. I'm going to stop before it gets worse, right? Let me try to bring an example to life. Maybe there was this one time where you allowed your emotions to get the best of you and, someone annoyed you or whatever. And then you kind of said something you didn't mean to say, but you were just feeling some type of way at that point in time. You were emotional, right? You were trying to justify why you were rude or why you were mean to that person. And you're telling yourself, oh, they started it. They said this first. They're bad people. They're being toxic, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that you have to go through those points in time where you feel bad about what you did and you kind of see it as a loss. So you understand how it feels and you're like, wait, I know how it feels to make people feel bad. I don't ever want to do that again. So I truly believe that people have to fall, you know. It's like there's going to be a lot of times where you win, but there's sometimes you have to lose so you remember what that feeling feels like and you never want to put yourself in that position again.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's something that I would definitely take in and practice that for the future, because everybody, if you don't want to, no one wants to fail, right? And because when they go through that experience, it's terrible, and so I think that kind of motivates them to stay away from that and to not do it again,
Exactly.
to become a better person.
Exactly. And one thing that I learned from past experiences is that you don't want to let your past bleed into your future, right? You don't want to let past situations affect the person that you are today in a negative manner. So it's like, instead of allowing it to bleed over and hurt what potential opportunities you might have coming up in life, allow it to make you stronger. Allow that skin to grow tougher, right? So that's what I believe in.
Very well said. All right. Before we end the podcast, I have one more question for you, and it would be, if you had one message to tell the world, the whole entire world, what would it be?
It's funny that you say that. So do I think that this would be the message after hours of thought that I would tell people? Maybe not, but this is a thought I had earlier, and I hope that this inspires whoever is listening to this. Of course, I could say chase your dreams, stay true to yourself, be a good person, blah blah blah. But I think what I'm gonna fall back to is something that I was thinking about today, and that train of thought is just imagine if we all supported each other, right? And let me actually pull it up, and I can read it to you. That way I'm describing it exactly the way that I want it to be. So here's what I wrote down. And I'm the kind of person, like, if I have a thought that really me, I like writing it down so I can look back at it and just remember how I felt. So here's what I wrote. And I quote, imagine how great this community could be if we all supported each other. Enough with the toxicity, the negativity. Stop putting other people down to make up for your own insecurities. I promise you, it feels a lot better to be uplifting and supportive. I think that that's the message that I would want to end on. I would want to let people know that, first off, it feels a lot better to uplift and help people than it does to put them down and hurt them. And second off, imagine the amount of tremendous success we could all achieve as individuals, as in a relationship, in an organization, like I mentioned earlier, as individuals. Imagine the amount of success that we could achieve if we all supported each other, if we all cared about each other, if we all loved each other, right? If everyone had the mindset of being a servant leader, I honestly think the world would be a better place. And it all starts with you. You can be the change, right? You could inspire one person and then it falls into just a spider web, right? It's like you affect one person, that person affects one person, and who knows, maybe that person affects 10 people. And then those 10 people affect 1,000 people. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So yeah, all in all, I would say, I guess, be a good person, be supportive towards others. If you see someone having a bad day, be there for them. Don't you wish you had people that would be there for you when you were having a bad day? So that's where I would leave it at.
Wow, that was beautiful. Very, very well said. That gave me a little bit of chills.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm sure that RBW, our friends, would love to hear you and what you have to say. So maybe we'll show it. We'll show these words that you've spoken,
That'd
and
be amazing. I would love that.
have them learn from that. Yeah.
I would love for our organization to know how thankful and blessed I am to be in the shoes that I am today. I've been through a lot in my life. I've had my good moments and my bad moments. Um, and I can honestly say that being around all of them is one of the biggest blessings and one of the best things that has ever happened. And the reason that I work so hard is because of them. And I'm very thankful for them. And I hope that everyone that hears this, both hopefully in RBW and outside of RBW, I hope that this inspires you. You know, chase your dreams, don't stop. And one thing that I would really like to say, and this is something that I say a lot, is that the wolf climbing the hill is hungrier than the wolf at the top, right? It's the mindset of as long as you're hungry and you keep pushing forward, you're gonna get to the top one day.
Of course. Well, Atlas, thank you very much for stopping by. This was a wonderful podcast. I enjoyed listening to you and your advice and your leadership experience. So thank you for coming to this podcast today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. You know, a part of this, I'm super thankful. I'm glad that, you know, we were able to chat and, you know, just talk about overall experiences that I've had and that you've experienced with me. And I hope that this puts a smile on someone's face, or maybe that this drives someone to chase something that they've been waiting to chase.
All right. Well, thank you. And I will see you later.
Sounds great. Take care. Thank you.